Hey y'all, this is Robyn Spears, your host of the Ag Chicks podcast, where I cultivate connections with the women who are helping feed the world. So, Mom, welcome to the podcast. Only took us almost an hour.
I was irrigating.
Well, okay, that part, and then technical difficulties. We're using a new platform. So those of you who are listening, I have also changed audio. So hopefully the audio sounds better than before because I have upgraded a few things in my office. So hopefully that is better. And then also I'm using a new platform for recording. So if you watch the video, let me know if this is better for your viewing pleasure or what you think of the video part. But because of the video, we had a little technical difficulty on my mom's end. So here we are.
But we're here.
We're here. Welcome, Mother, to Season 5 of the Ag Chicks podcast, Episode 2. Season 5.
That's crazy.
Which I was like, no, it hasn't been 5 years, which it hasn't. It's been 4 years, 5 seasons, because of the way I do the seasons. It's basically like 8-month rotations.
Right.
But because I started 2020. So that's kind of crazy to think about.
Yeah.
In the first episodes, I went back and was looking at some of them for some reason recently. They're painful.
I remember when you did your very first one. Was it with Madison?
No, it was Michelle Martin.
Who?
Michelle Martin.
Yes. Yes. And you did one by yourself, like to introduce it all. I remember that. I think I was there maybe, or I don't know. But I remember you doing that one.
Yeah.
Come a long way, baby.
Come a long way. Come a long way. So season 5, which at this point, the first episode would have launched. So hopefully everyone listened to that. And I guess it encouraged them to stick around if they're here for the second one. But season 5 is kind of a where are they now with everyone. So a little life update, recap on things. And then, I don't know, I thought it's been a while, like maybe the first or second season when you and I did our episode. I think it was the second season. But lots happened, not only since then, but in the last 2 months.
Right? I feel like it's always, yeah, I don't know. At some point, things may calm down, but maybe not. I don't know.
I know. When I recorded the first episode, I was doing just kind of a quick life chat. And I made the comment that I had promised myself in 2024 I wasn't going to travel as much. I wasn't going to be on the road as much. I wasn't going to do as much. And I feel like I've actually been gone more this year so far than I have been at home. But I also don't know what else we would do. Like,
yeah, we're not normal people.
no.
We're really not. I like
People don't get it either.
No, I was cleaning today because I've been gone for such a long time, and I got home and I was like, oh my God, I couldn't feel like I could relax until I cleaned because there was so much dust and stuff. And I was like, how does your father been like breathing in the house with all this dust? And I was vacuuming in my bedroom, and there's like 6 suitcases lined up against the wall. And I'm like, that's not normal. And we use them constantly. That's not normal. But it's who we are.
I'm proud of myself because I only have one packed currently. And that
they're unpacked.
Oh, this one's still packed because it ties, and I refuse to hang his clothes up because I do hang up all of his laundry, so I'm not hanging up what he packed in a suitcase.
Yeah.
But that's the only one I have currently packed. Usually there's a couple packed, some in the transition period, but
yeah.
Saturday.
I did just unpack this morning, but then I looked at all the ones we have lined up there. And you're constantly using that. So I don't know. I'm like, wonder when I could put those away. I don't know. Sometime soon.
No. That being said, though, so where to begin?
Yeah. Well, first of all, thank you for asking me to be on the podcast. I feel like it's an honor, as you've definitely interviewed a lot of really influential and important people and people who are doing amazing and great things. So I feel very blessed to have been asked to do this and to be amongst that sort of company.
Well, thanks, Mom. I have a sinus infection, so I'm no, you're welcome. And I think as I was thinking through, this next season of the podcast and also this next season of life, I think sometimes I don't put my own voice in things as enough or that sounded weird. I don't put my own voice in things quite enough. And so what better person to talk about me and my journey with than you, but also I think we have a unique relationship in terms of like mother-daughter relationship, business partner relationship, and just obviously you are there through everything. So I thought it was a good way to start off this next season and chapter, if you will.
And here we are. So
I guess let's start with I feel like the last time we talked, we had just gotten the Highlands. I don't know if we had been doing Round Top yet for Drunk and Disorderly.
Talking last time we talked on
the podcast.
Oh wow.
I should have probably prepped a little better and gone back.
You know what? I think we were at the other house.
We were at Carter Creek.
So we didn't have the Highland house yet. We might have had the Highlands, but we weren't like into the Highlands as we are now. Yeah, Round Top we weren't doing Round Top yet. So yeah, a lot has changed. We've come a long way since the last podcast, for sure.
Yeah. So speaking of that, and that all being said, let's start maybe with like let's start with Drunk and Disorderly, I guess. Okay. And what is currently going on there?
Okay. So I do remember us sitting on the bed at the Carter Creek house. That might have been for Drunk and Disorderly.
That was a video for Drunk and Disorderly talking about junk journeys. I think we had just kind of launched that.
Okay.
Right. I feel like we touched on it in that episode on the podcast, but I don't think, obviously, we've done a lot since then in terms of how it all works.
Okay, so
the date.
Where has Drunk and Disorderly go? So in the last 4 years, Drunk and Disorderly has branched out. Let's just say that. I feel like Drunk and Disorderly is like an umbrella, and then we have all these little offshoots kind of under it that are connected to Drunk and Disorderly, but are different, almost like different entities under one umbrella. So Drunk and Disorderly is our home decor, vintage goods, antique goods. That's kind of like our overarching thing. And then we sell here at the house in Brentwood, and we have new digs here at the house. So I guess it's almost been 3 years ago we put in a shop just for Drunk and Disorderly. So we now sell out of that shop when we do barn sales here at home. And I was just out in the barn earlier getting some stuff out of my car, and it's so hot in there. And I'm like, this is why I can't do sales in July and August, because it's like a tin can in there. So getting insulation is on the agenda at some point this year, because it gets really hot in the summer in there and really cold in the winter. So it's great because I have my own space, but it's not completely functional yet year round. So that's like the next phase. We secured I think is a great venue in Round Top, and we are now doing twice a year sales in Round Top. We are at the Warrenton Inn, and we kind of have as you know, your father teases me about like my gypsy family. Your aunts call it my Carney family, but like we have like our little home away from home, I guess you could say, because we spend 2 months there a year. So we're there. The show is about 3 weeks long in the spring and in the fall, and we're there for about 4 weeks. So we are at the Warrenton Inn. We have a wonderful space that's on cement and it's covered, and we set up shop there twice a year. So that takes me to Texas twice a year, where I probably wouldn't do it if it were anywhere else, but because I get to be with Allie and I get to see her, even though she's working, and, you know, I'm still close in proximity to her, and she comes on the weekends and stuff. So it works out. And that has been fun. So that's something we've definitely added to the docket, I guess you could say. Then the Highlands, they've taken off in a whole different way. We have several now. We started with 2 bred cows, and we now have, like, I was just counting the other day.
I'm pretty sure we have 18 or 19.
Yeah.
Maybe 20, if you count all the bulls and everything too.
And your father bought the national champion Highland bull last year, and poor little Encore, he's just such a little love, and he's poor, I say, because he's been at the bull test facility for quite a while now. You had to have all these tests run on him to make sure that we could, you know, for, I guess, in terms of like checking his semen and making sure that it's viable and that we can do sex semen. And so he's been at a bull test facility, and I miss him, and we are just about ready to go pick him up and bring him home. But he passed all of his tests. We can export Highland semen now out of him. We've sold a bunch here, so that's like been exciting to see that take off. We just hosted our very first Highland experience under Junk and Disorderly. We did Moms and Moos for Mother's Day. It was wonderful. Allie came home. We limited our tickets to 20. We sold all 20 tickets. We had moms and kids and friends that came together, and anyway, it was a great experience. Taught them a little bit about Highlands. They got a close-up experience with some of our halter broke steers and some of our babies, and then from that, a lot of people bought or wanted to buy Highlands from us as pets, and as you know, so that's opened up a whole nother avenue. So that kind of has taken off. We have the Highland House there in Texas, which we have decorated. We have sourced all of the, curated all of the antiques and furniture and everything there, and we are marketing that venue as a venue for like showers, parties.
And also, like, it's an Airbnb as well, so game day weekends, it gets booked out quite a bit. Ring dump events here in College Station. Yeah, that's a whole beast of its own as well.
As I'm saying this, I'm like, no wonder I'm like tired. Yeah, so there's like the umbrella of Junk and Disorderly, which is still trucking along, and then under that umbrella, the Highlands, the Highland House, the barn sales, Round Top. So there's a lot that's going on, but it's all good. Like I guess during the summer, I feel a little bit of a disconnection anyway, usually because we're gone a lot. And so I'm not like actively doing sales and that kind of thing, but there's a lot of other stuff going on during the summer too, with Junk and Disorderly. So, it's still going. It's trucking along, and it's keeping us busy. And
one thing you didn't mention, but I think is an important thing to talk about, especially because we potentially have a audience, and this episode is not really a sales pitch, but I think that it provides an opportunity to talk about some really kind of fun, unique things that we do. So that being the junk journeys that we do in Round Top. So do you want to talk a little bit about kind of what that is?
Yeah. So that started out with just kind of us doing it with our family and taking grandma and aunts and stuff to Round Top and showing them around and kind of giving them like a guided shopping experience. And then we were like, hey, this would be like a really cool thing to do for any women. And so we did, and we've probably done 2 or 3 maybe different trips with different women. And so basically it is what it sounds like. It is a curated, guided shopping experience. So women can sign up. They fly themselves to Austin. We can help you with like the flights and stuff, but basically you fly you're responsible for your flights to Austin. We pick you up in Austin, and from there we take care of you for the next 4 days. It's 4 days and 3 nights in Round Top. We do all the driving. We take you to kind of like before the trip, we get a feel for like, what are you looking for? What are you into? What do you enjoy? And then we plan out the places where we're going to go based on your interests. Round Top is huge, and absolutely, it's not humanly possible to get through all of it. So we kind of try to give you a little taste of the high end, the lower end, the mid end, collectibles, antiques, vintage, new stuff, like whatever it is that you're interested in. And then we take you to those shopping places. We package everything. We wrap everything. We ship it back for you, which is kind of one of the unique parts of the trip, is that most of our participants have been from California. So we have then pack everything in a trailer and then bring all the goods back to California, so that you don't have to pay a separate shipper. And that's all included in the price. Basically, you shop and hand us your bags, and we take it from there and make sure it gets back home. Take care of getting you to the places where you eat. We do the breakfast for you. We do snacks. And it has proven to be a really fun trip, and women who've done it have really enjoyed it. We have kind of dropped the ball a little bit on it because we've had so many other things going on. And with starting our own booth in Round Top, that kind of took our attention away from us being able to do guided trips. So now we're settled enough with our own space in Round Top that I think we can start doing the trips again. And then with the economy and everything, it's been such a weird few years. People are just not spending like they were and taking trips and doing that kind of thing. So hopefully with our, things changing here soon, the economy will hopefully get back on its feet. And, but yeah, that is a fun, another offshoot of Junk and Disorderly, which is the, why am I the name of it? What did I Junk Journeys. Yeah. The Junk Journeys are another fun thing. So
yeah, it's a fun girls trip.
Right.
I mean, we always say girls, women, we're not opposed to men if you wanted to do like a couples thing. It just has happened to be women up to this point. But super kind of fun, unique experience, especially if you're into vintage, antiques, decor even. I mean, you don't even really have there's so much around Top that if you have an interest in anything, there's probably a booth that has it.
Yeah, anything you might be interested in, we could probably find it for you or help you find it.
Like clothes, vintage clothes, boots, turquoise bags, like whatever. There's definitely all of that.
Lots of clothes. Yeah. The possibilities are endless there, really.
Yeah, it's 20.
I mean, anything.
I don't know if you said how long it is, but it's 27 miles of just anything you can imagine. Treasures.
Yeah, and Round Top has changed a lot in the last couple of years. There's a lot more permanent structures now, whereas it used to be mostly just tents. So you would pull into a property and there would just be tent after tent after tent after tent, which they still have that. But now in Round Top, there are a lot of permanent buildings too, which are a little bigger. Those tend to be a little higher dollar items, more, there's a whole pavilion of really upscale, I always say his name wrong, Paul Michael.
I always get that and the shampoo mixed up.
I think Paul Mitchell is the shampoo. This is Paul Michael.
Paul Michael.
Huge pavilions of designer decor. So yeah, it's really, if you enjoy shopping, you enjoy antiques and vintage, and you just like getting out, and it is something that there's nothing like it.
Yeah. People are so nice, and it's just so we have a joke because my mom comes to Texas for the month, and she has stayed in a trailer at some points. We've joked that she's going to sleep in the booth also. The past the last show and then I think this show again, she'll have a room at where we actually set up as a vendor. But it's kind of like summer camp for adults. Like you are out literally in the middle of nowhere and you kind of lose track of time, but like in the most perfect, wholesome way. So
Right. It's
it's like
kind
a
of
big
like
party every
this
night.
escape from the real world. Yeah, and it is kind of like summer camp. And I've stayed in some interesting places. Like I've had, let's see, I'm trying to think of the first time we did it. Did we drive? We drove back and forth for a while, which it sounds crazy, but where our house is about 45 to 50
Like
miles.
56 minutes.
Okay. But when you do that twice a day for 3 weeks, it's like I can't describe it. It's almost like you go through a time warp when you're
Well,
driving.
it's
It's
not like a main highway really that you drive on. It's like kind of back roads.
country back road.
Yeah. So it's like therapeutic, but almost in a negative way when you're super tired. Like it could be a recipe for disaster.
Yeah. So after like a week of it, because usually the first week when we're there and we're setting up the booth, we drive back and forth. And it's a killer because you got to leave, an hour and a half before, and it takes you an hour and a half at the end to get home. So it just adds 2.5 hours, to your day every day. And they're already super long days. And then you can't partake in the nightlife there. And who wants to miss all the nightlife in Round Top? Not me. So I very quickly decided, no, I got to stay there. So then I got a trailer. I got a really little trailer the first year my sister stayed with me, and we were like, it was not good. She was like, okay. Then I got a big trailer, and the bottom
first you had a little trailer, and the bottom fell out.
Yeah, the bottom fell out. Like literally. We got up. Allie spent the night with me. We might have had a few cocktails the night before. Not many. And I got up and I'm like, we heard like a really bizarre noise at night, but we had no idea what it was. But it was like a really weird noise. I got up the next morning. I can't even remember what made me do it, but I opened the door to the trailer, and I think, was there water everywhere? I think there was water outside. I don't know. But the bottom of the trailer fell out. Literally the bottom of the trailer. I mean, like the floor in the trailer was still there, but everything under it was laying on the ground.
Fell out.
Oh my God. So they had to switch out the trailers for us. And then we got like a really big fancy trailer with it had all kinds of bells and whistles. And then I got a room at the Warrenton Inn, which was nice because then I was right there on site. So anyway, it's fun. It is just it's a fun time, and it's a fun trip. And like, we now know the people that we booth with really well. All of our vendor friends, and it's a good time. So that occurs in the spring in March and in the fall in October. So that's in a nutshell what's been happening with Junk and Disorderly. We've really tried. We did a customer survey early in January, and really are trying to pull in more things with Junk and Disorderly that are a little more experiential. People want experiences. And so we knew that, but we kind of wanted to hear from our customers. And that's what they said. Like, they want to do things, learn things, have an experience. So we've always wanted to that's kind of always been part of our mission, is to make shopping with us an experience. But we're really trying to pull in more of that with the Highlands. And we have the trucker hat bar this year where you can design your own hats. And we've got the bracelet bar. And we've trying to pull in some of those things where people have a little more of an experience shopping with us. But at the end of the day, that's really what we're about, is things that we hand source, and then hopefully providing bar none customer service and a good wholesome experience when you come and shop with us, or whatever you might do with us.
So. Yeah. And too, I think the part about the Highlands, so if you're not familiar with my background, or if you have never heard from my mom before, this is the first time you're hearing an episode with her, which I looked it up, Mom, almost to the day, July 20th of 2021, which that's kind of weird.
Crazy.
So that's when the last episode was that we did. Or that's when it launched, I guess I should say. So I grew up on our family's generational farm ranch in Northern California. And so we had cattle growing up started as purebred Angus operation that transitioned now more into kind of a commercial operation with influences from those original purebred Angus cattle, also some Simmental cattle, also some show cattle. So just kind of a mix of all of the different types of breeds that we have had over the years. But then also the addition of the Highlands have been something that I think typical like cattle ranchers, right? Like that's not the thought. Like that's not a breed that most just like ranchers would have.
Right.
They're definitely more of like a hobby breed, I'd say, or like a specialized breed. This year going to Denver, it was actually really cool to see how just like different they are from a like a breed association. How they fit them is different. Like it's just a very different breed from what I grew up around, what we had growing up in terms of cattle. But I think that they're a fun breed to bring into from an agritourism side of things, and they work well with the things that we're already doing because from the drunken disorderly standpoint of like having people come to the ranch to shop, like that's a very passive way for them to like notice things about agriculture without them even really realizing like, oh, I'm in a barn on a ranch. Like they don't even put two and two together half the time. But
Right.
then they can see the cows, they can see the goats, they can smell the cows and the goats. So it's been something that we've been having like a goal for in order to include more of that into those things. And so I think we're finally at the point where the Highlands are big enough from like a mainstream media side where people like know about Highland cattle. And so it's been an easy kind of transition of like, okay, let's talk about Highland cattle, but then like let's also talk about agriculture as a bigger thing. And so
Right.
that's been something I think fun for us to do and also a good learning thing, even though
Right.
they came
Well,
to for a moms and moos experience, but they also got a handout that had information about agriculture and
right. And I think a lot of that was born from Ag Chicks, honestly. Like
yeah.
we had Junk and Disorderly going on, and then you had started Ag Chicks, but I think almost a melding of the two. We realized that people don't really understand where their food comes from, or like make the connection that the hamburger, four-legged cow out in the pasture, or goats. And not all animals like are, when I even at the Highland, the moms and moos, someone asked about, did we milk them or something like that, and I was like, they're not, so people just don't understand like that there's dairy cattle that are designed for, milk, and then there's beef cattle, and there's, anyway, it's just, so I think because of Ag Chicks and realizing that people truly often, and no fault of their own, they don't understand where their food comes from. We've kind of tried to tie that into what we're doing with Junk and Disorderly. Like, yeah, people do need to, understand that, yes, they're raised in the pasture and we have goats, and how do you, whatever. But I think it's all kind of sort of intertwined in a way.
No, I agree. And I think for me, sometimes I get in this like mindset of like people don't care or they're just like uneducated and stuff like that. But I like doing events like that is really a good perspective change for myself because people do care. I think they just don't know how to ask the questions or who
Right.
to ask the questions to because they had really good questions about like things I hadn't even thought about.
Right.
And so I think people do care. And so things like that are a good reminder where you can have those one-on-one connections. It doesn't have to be a huge social media campaign talking about things. Like
Right.
general conversations with people are just as impactful because now we have 20 people who maybe had zero. I would say over half those people had never been up close and personal with a cow before.
Right.
And there was kids there that absolutely loved it and they asked really good questions. And so just kind of having those
Right.
interactions
And I
was
think we forget, I mean, where we live in Brentwood here, like it used to be a very agriculturally centered community, and it's not anymore. And there's not many farms left. There's not many ranches left. There's not, there's really not a lot of cattle here anymore. I don't know that there ever was a lot of cattle here. I mean, there are cattle that graze on the hills and stuff, but people just aren't around it. People just aren't, they just don't, even though I often think of like, we live here, everyone understands that, like, you know, there's corn across the street. There's a winery with grapes across the street. There's cherries behind us on this side. And I'm around it every day, and it's been part of my everyday life, but most people aren't and don't. And so you forget that people just don't understand where it comes from or how it gets there. And so I think that the Highland event that we did, even though it was just, you know, a couple hours and we had 20 people, I do think it was important to remember that people do want to know, they do want to learn, and we need to continue. We have the opportunity to provide, and the not even the opportunity, but we have the place to provide those kind of experiences, and it's important to do that.
Yeah.
That's the plan for the future of what we're doing. And
Yeah, and I think we sometimes, well, up to this point, we've like kind of avoided some of those potential engagement points just because it would add extra effort, which it definitely added extra effort.
it took a lot of work.
But
A
I
lot
think
of work.
the reward from it
Work.
was beneficial on all ends too.
For sure, for sure. And then I don't know if you remember this, but so we did, so it took like I mean, honestly, I thought it was going to be, I will admit, all the years that Allie had cattle and we did show cattle and we had people helping us and everything, I never was directly involved with breaking any of the cattle, like to show. And so here we've got this Moms and Moose thing that we've we're selling tickets for. We're like, we're going to have up close and personal. And I have got no calves that are broke. I've got cows that I can go out in the pasture and brush, but I've never had a halter on them. I'm thinking, oh my God. And we were traveling. I think, was I in Texas? I think I was in Texas.
You were in Texas, like, well, for Round Top, like, for a month and a half leading up to it.
Yeah. So I'm starting to have nightmares about like people showing up, cattle are running wild, like we have to give everyone their money back because we don't have, I mean, just like all these crazy thoughts. So I'm like, okay, I've got to get these cattle broke. So anyway, my point is I start breaking these cattle. Your dad and I go out in the pasture, you know, and I always think about those like on Facebook, or not even Facebook, Instagram, Facebook, whatever, where they have like the husband and wife working cattle and they're like, you know, things that your husband says to you when working cattle or whatever. Well, I like lived that because he went one way and I turned around to do something with the gate and the cows all like ran out and he just like put his head down. He didn't say anything. And I was like, oh my God, we're not going to be able to do this. Well, we did. Like, he didn't yell at me or anything. I didn't say anything smart aleck back at him. And we went and we got the cows, brought them in, got the steers. We had 2 steers that we that I was going to halter break, got them in, and it was like within like the first couple hours I was brushing them, and I thought, okay, these are not like normal cows. Like normal cattle take a lot longer. Anyway, my point is I was directly involved with breaking those steers and getting them ready, and it was a process, but it was actually super enjoyable, and like I loved that. Like, I'm like, okay, I can do this, because I was kind of afraid, to be honest. But I was like, even explaining that to people, like what it took to get them to that point where the day of Moms and Moos, when we got the kid, remember when the couple wanted to put the baby on the back of the cat? I'm like, oh, yeah, I think it'll be okay. And the steer just stood there and was like totally fine. But like it took a lot to get to that point, and people don't understand how all that works. And so we have to keep doing those kinds of things if we want people to understand. And with all that being said, I mean, thank God they're Highlands, because they're way easier to handle and they're just more docile than other cattle. So it actually ended up working out. And the baby, little Norman, he was a hit, and the mom was fine. And so it ended up being a great day. But there was a lot of work that went into it before, and a lot of nightmares that I had before that day, hoping that everything went smoothly.
Yeah. Well, and I think too, just again, good reminder, like you said, just people just don't, like, they don't know, because why would they need to know?
Right.
And even the photographer, like, she was fantastic, but right at the beginning, she was like, I'll have to pull the pictures up and put them in this podcast for those of you who are watching
Oh,
and
yeah,
hearing
good
us tell
idea,
this.
good idea.
But I basically we didn't really have time to do, like, a test run in terms of, like, how we were gonna pull the steers up, have them stand there for, like, when they took the pictures with them. So I was holding the head of the steer, basically on the ground, on my knees, bending down, holding the head, like, but standing far enough back to where I wasn't in the picture, but the steer was in the picture. It was like a whole thing. But at one point, I'm, like, in a full body sweat, and our photographer was like, "Do you think he could come up, like, 2 steps?" And I'm like,
I'm waiting
Not
for you."
really."
Yeah, that was crazy because we were kind of nervous because they have horns, and they're steers, so their horns were not. I mean, they were just weaned, they're like 7, 8 months old or whatever. So they weren't massive horns, but they have horns and they know how to use them and they will use them and they'll,
What about 7-inch horns?
yeah, yeah. So we were nervous about that because we had all these little kids and just all the liability stuff is flashing through your mind. But thank God everything went smoothly and they were great and it all worked out. And you did definitely take one for the team, bending over for an hour while we took all the pictures and you held the head and yeah. So it was fun.
Yeah, no, it was fun, and, um so keep an eye out if you're interested for a Highland event, or if you're interested in purchasing Highlands. Like my mom mentioned, we have Highlands for sale. I think we'll have a few heifers for
We've
sale.
got yeah, so we have a cow, one of our original cows, and then we have a heifer, first calf heifer, and a few that we're going to be weaning like actually next month, the end of next month we'll start weaning. I'm going to get on the breaking of them a little sooner this time. Get them when they're a little bit younger. But yeah, we have and I know what I started to say, and then I don't know, my mind went somewhere else. But so we did Moms and Moos, and then we went right into opening the Junk and Disorderly, the sale,
Oh yeah.
in the shop. And so we had a lot of people on that Sunday that came, and they heard us talking about. Well, we had 2 people that came to pick up their steers during the sale that we had used for Moms and Moos. So anyway, then other people heard that people were asking a lot of questions like, what did you guys do with the Highlands, how did that work? And then people from that wanted to get on a waiting list to get a broke a steer or whatever. So and a lot of them, like the people that signed up that day, they do like a rescue farm, and they want one. They had a Highland that died, and anyway, but like people were just like mesmerized by the whole idea of what we had done and what we were doing. And so yeah, a lot of it is that people just don't know.
Yeah.
It's not that they don't care or whatever, they just don't are not presented those kinds of opportunities to learn. So
Yeah, for sure. Now, I will also throw in, while we're on the subject of, like, Highlands and buying Highlands, they are different, so I would do your research before you just jump into them. Um, they're a little bit more destructive, I will say that,
yeah,
without really having to do any of the work to clean up after them, just from what I know about what you guys have had to do in terms of
a lot.
fence mending.
They
Uh,
tend fences with their horns.
um, yeah, I mean, just as anything, right? Do your research before you jump
Yeah,
into something like that.
be able to keep them cool. Like I was just in Idaho for a whole nother situation with our son. And it got really hot here. And so your dad had a plan to come and join me and didn't because it was like 105 here and he had to be here to keep them cool by putting running water in the pasture. And, just like the heat is an issue for them.
Yeah.
So, yeah, so do your research. And everybody asks about minis, and ours are not minis, and that's a whole nother topic that probably won't get into today. But like, there's a whole nother thing around minis. But everybody thinks, oh, they're so cute and they're so little, but there's like that's like a whole nother thing. But ours are not mini. Ours are very moderate in size in terms of regular cattle, but they're not minis.
Yeah, and most Highlands are fairly moderate, like,
Mm.
which means smaller, like, they're smaller than, like, one of my cows here in Texas, like, they're definitely smaller than that, and, yeah, minis, that's a whole different thing. My 2 cents on minis is it's a genetic disorder. It's a form of dwarfism, and Highlands actually don't have dwarfism doesn't occur naturally in Highlands. So it's a crossbreeding in order to get that uh, genetic disorder. So do with that information what you will, but keep that in mind. Do your research on everything. Yeah, and it is a good registered breed organization that backs the Highland Association is what it's called. I think it's actually the American Highland Association. Um, they have a national show, so lots of opportunities there if that's something you're interested in. If you're interested in buying semen, we now have semen that can be shipped internationally. Encore passed all his tests, so domestically in the U.S., but also internationally. I want to say Canada, Australia, and I don't remember what the other ones were, but those for sure. And sexed semen too. So if you're wanting heifers. What else, Mom? What else has been going on? Should we talk about, I don't know, life? Like what's life has been wild?
Life has been wild. Life has been wild.
Like our lives are always wild.
Yeah, I don't know if it just follows us, or I don't know. But I thought we were gonna have like a summer. Typically for me and your dad, we usually try to follow your brother a little bit while he's pitching, and he pitches for the Boise Hawks. And so we thought we were gonna do a little bit of traveling to watch him pitch, and then I had been in Texas, flew from Texas to Arizona to see a doctor about my knees, and found out I have to have double knee replacement, which that sounds like a lot of fun. I can hardly wait for that. And as we were flying home from seeing the doctor, I get a call from our son, who is 23, and we were coming home for a couple days, and then we were flying to Montana to watch him pitch. He got hit in the mouth while in Montana during practice, and
actually, we were all together in Boise because I was there. You flew to Arizona.
Right. Oh, that's right. Yes, we were all in Boise to watch him for his first game where he pitched really well.
It was my birthday. It was the sale. It was Moms and Moves, the sale, my birthday. Then you and I flew to Texas for something.
Right. I flew home with you after Moms and Moves.
I think the roof stuff. And then we went to Boise that next week.
Right.
And then it was, yeah. When I tell you I haven't been home, I haven't been home.
It has been crazy since May. Yeah, so I flew to Texas, dealt with the situation. We have to replace a roof on our house in Texas. We had somebody moving into one of the apartments, had to get that all ready, did all that. Allie and I flew to Boise, watched Braden pitch in his first game, did a great job. From there, Allie flew home. We flew to Arizona. I saw the doctor. We were flying home for 3 days, then going to Montana, and that's when he had his jaw broken. So then that was like a whole nother, like that through a whole, obviously, element of life that we weren't expecting. So then I flew to Boise. The team flew your brother to Boise. I met him there. He had surgery there. He had to have a plate put in his jaw, completely broke his jaw in half, completely the bottom jaw in half. I stayed with him for like 4 or 5 days. Then we flew home for like a week, and then I flew back with them. So basically I have been in Boise on and off for 6 weeks, because I was the chef. So we were super worried. He had worked so hard in the off season to get ready for the season. He stayed in Texas for 6 weeks, worked out with some wonderful men. What'd you say? Trainers. Thank you. I couldn't think of the word. Men. I say wonderful men who were trainers in Texas. Went every day, drove an hour each way every day to work out with them. Got physically, mentally, everything kind of ready to pitch. Was throwing like between 93 and 96 miles an hour. We were like, finally, like his velocity, everything was going great. Had some attention from MLB teams. We were like, this is it. And then his jaw gets broken, not his bra. so we were really worried about him losing weight, and how, because the Boise Hawks, they put their players with host families, and Braden has an amazing family that he stays with, and they were in Hawaii for 3 weeks, and you can't put that on a host family to like help your kid get through jaw surgery. So because I am retired, sort of, I was able to be with him, which was wonderful. Anyway, so I stayed in Boise. I was the chef. I just made soft food for him every day, made sure he had, protein drinks and all that good stuff. And I kind of stayed there with him through the end because I wanted to make sure that once he got released to go back to the team, then I'm like, okay, I'm in the last week or so, he was doing great, and he didn't really need me to be there, and I was just kind of waiting till that last doctor appointment. So then we went to his doctor on Monday. The doctor released him. It's been 7 weeks since he broke his jaw. His doctor released him on Monday to go back to pitching. He still is not supposed to chew for another, I think it's like another week and a half. And then at 12 weeks, which is the 3-month mark, the doctor wants to see him one last time just to like redo the CAT scan and everything and make sure that everything is good to go. So he got on the bus to travel with the team back to Great Falls, and I got on the plane and came home. So it's been chaotic, to say the least. Like, I didn't expect to be there, all the stuff that happened. Obviously, you don't expect those kinds of things. So that has thrown like a complete wrench in the summer in terms of me getting anything done at home, or like Junk and Disorderly kind of got put on the back burner. And the one thing that, which I'm totally good with that, like I was doing what I felt like I needed to do, and I was happy to do it, and I would do it. If Allie needed something, I would be there to help her, whatever. So I'm glad I had the opportunity to be of help to him. And that's just kind of what happens with life. When life gets in the way, you prioritize. And obviously, Junk and Disorderly was not that important at the time. But then the thing is, you lose, when you're not in front of people on social media, you lose so much traction. And so that I'm like, oh, and that's like my one thing that I'm not good at. I don't enjoy it. And social media is hard to keep yourself in front of people. So I'm going to have to start over with that, which not good, but it is what it is.
Yeah. Which, I mean, I wasn't planning to talk about this, but why not? I said season 5, we were getting deeper on topics. So, you and I had a conversation about kind of all of that. What's today? Thursday today. So, was that Tuesday maybe? About how much of our world is online, and how that's kind of terrifying in some regard, and the fact that like there's just like you have, I don't know, I think it's a double-edged sword, because you have no control of what you're consuming online in a way, just because of the way social media works in terms of algorithms, I guess, and just like how much content is being put out there. But then I guess you also have the control of like not being on it too. But then it's like then you're disconnected from everything. So I know we've talked a lot about that and just kind of the craziness of the world. I guess my question would be, and this is totally off the cuff here, so sorry. And I know Brayden and I are older, so maybe the good news of this is you don't have to worry about it as much. But like being a mother who obviously you want the best for your kids in the times that we are currently living in, like what advice do you have for moms right now who are like, I know this is like this is a deep one, but like what would be some advice that you'd give to a mother, a parent, or even just like an individual? It doesn't necessarily have to be a mother, I guess. How to navigate this world without like losing what keeps us human. I know that's like such a loaded question.
Without losing what's human?
Like keeps us human, and like, you know what I mean? Like so much AI and so much just like digital world that we live in. I feel like we are very close as a family, obviously using technology to our advantage because we're all over the place. But, like, I don't know. I don't really know what I'm trying to get at here.
I feel like you're gonna force me to open up my conspiracy theorist box a little
I
bit.
know, but I feel like that's okay because I think I don't
Okay.
know, why not? Why not have the conversations?
There's a lot. That's big. So I guess I am thankful that as a mother, my children are basically grown-ups, sort of. I mean, you are, but, you're always like, you never
Depends on the
really
day.
think of your kids as grown-ups, but you're grown-ups. I'm glad that I'm not having to navigate, like, you guys being in, um, like, elementary school and high school and all that in this world because, I mean, I was a teacher in the classroom, in public school classroom for 34 years, and I can tell you that what I saw happening in the classroom and what I saw happening through COVID and everything, it's what's why I retired. Um, I couldn't do it anymore, and I couldn't watch what I was seeing and act like it was okay, and I just couldn't do it. So first of all, I would say to young parents of young school age children, make sure you know where your children are in terms of like where they're getting their education, where they're getting their information. Be open with them. Do your research as parents because I mean you're really pushing me here on my like you we live in a world that is not always what it seems, and and I did not really realize this until I would say the last 5 years. I've gone down some deep rabbit holes, and my family all teases me and they think I'm a conspiracy theorist, which I probably am, but my theories come true, so what does that make me? But what I'm saying is that you have to do the research. You cannot rely on other people to do the research for you or other people to make decisions for your family. You have to make your own decisions for your children. No one can do that for you, particularly not our government, particularly not local government. Like you need to get involved in your communities and know where your kids are getting their education and their information. And you as a parent, like there are so many things now today, if I were to start over with the knowledge I have, I would do so many things different with my own kids. And as a parent, you need to research on those kinds of things medically. You need to look at what's being put in your kids' bodies. You need to look at what's being put in your body, your food. I mean, that's part of like this whole knowing where our food comes from. You need to know where your food comes from. Without sounding like I'm a lunatic, like you really have to take everything into your own hands, your education, your health, medical stuff. I mean, you really there's a lot on parents now that I think for a lot of people in my generation, we were just ignorant and we just kind of like lived in this false bliss of like, oh, no one's going to try to hurt us, and everything is safe and everything is good. It wouldn't be in the store if it was bad. I mean, we didn't know any better, but you now today need to know better, and you need to take the time to figure that out, especially if you have young children. Did I sound crazy? Do I sound crazy?
No, I mean, I think that's kind of what I like. I feel like, right, I'm at an age where in the next couple of years, probably, hopefully, if that's God's plan, we'll be starting to do some of that in terms of like getting married, having kids. And like me and talking to my friends who are my age, obviously, like that's terrifying to me. Like, not only do you have to have a child, right? Like that's a terrifying venture in its own, but then raising them in our current world, like that's terrifying to me. But I also think I'm lucky in the fact that I grew up in agriculture, so I know that like this is really not how what I was planning for this to go, I guess, but I think that there can still be good, and I think there still is good in our world. You just
Absolutely.
have to be very vigilant to make sure that those are the opportunities you're bringing to your children. Does that make
Right.
sense?
Yeah, and I think um yeah, there's a lot of good in the world, and it gets overshadowed by there's a lot of bad in the world too. And you can't get hung up on, and I myself sometimes go down these, you know, rabbit holes where I'm like, oh, everyone's evil, and not everyone is evil. There is evil of sure, but not everyone is like that. And there are good people in the world, and there are good, there's a lot of good. But I think I guess my point is that as a parent, the onus is on you as a parent to make sure that you're doing the best for your kids, um, we can't blindly follow what we're being told anymore. We can't blindly go along with, just because they're a doctor doesn't mean they always have the best advice for what your child needs or what your family needs, or just because it's in the grocery store doesn't mean it's safe, or you know what I'm saying? Like there's just so much more. And I do feel for young families and young mothers, because I think more than ever, we are living in a crazy world, and we have to take responsibility for our choices with education, with where we live, with how we live, with what we eat. You know, I mean, what our kids listen to, what our kids watch. You know, there's a lot to navigate as a young parent, for sure. So I'm glad I'm not. I'm glad I'm old, but I'm glad that I guess I'm glad that I kind of figured it out. I guess figuring it out old is better than never having figured it out. And never realizing that we have a lot of responsibility to take care of ourselves, because really no one's going to take care of you.
Well, and I think too, because of the world we live in, I think the information is out there. It's just finding the information that is correct first,
Right.
which is very confusing. And someone who is getting their PhD and knows how to read scholarly articles, like it is not always very clear. So that is like a challenge all within its own. But then also finding the information that fits your situation, because we are humans, right? We are individuals with different needs and expectations and attitudes and wants and behaviors. And so, like, things are just not always a one size fits all type
Absolutely.
of situation. So,
And I think, especially having been a teacher and seeing kids and all the different things that kids need today, or that kids the different needs that kids have, like you have to be you have to be an advocate for your child. um and I, you know, I wasn't excited about where public education was going, or where it's gone, for sure. And so you're as a parent, you have to trust that you know best with what your child needs, and that go find those answers. Turn off the TV. You're not going to get it on mainstream media. So you might have to go digging in other places. There's people out there though that have good information. There's so many things available to us, which is good, I guess, right? About social media and you know, the internet. I mean, we do have a lot at our fingertips. You just have to kind of dig for it. Yeah. I don't know. Did I answer your question?
yeah, no, that's where.
I mean, I think
I don't really know what my question was. It just kind of came out.
it's almost getting back to basics in a way, like which I think a lot of us did that during COVID, where like we were home and we were doing things at home that we hadn't been doing, and you kind of were like, hey, you know, I remember one day I was outside feeding the goats, which, you know, you had the cows, your brother had the goats, you guys both went away and left, and we still have all the cows and the goats. And I'm thinking, why do we have all these? But I'm out there like feeding the goats and watering and doing stuff, and I thought I could do this and be totally happy, and not have to be in the classroom anymore or in town anymore or whatever. And I thought, you know, like there is something about grounding yourself back to your roots. And I think part of that is like we have all this technology and we have all this stuff available to us, but I think it's almost like taking a step back to what's really important, and trusting, you know, having a relationship with faith, being faithful, and just having trust that you're going to make the best decisions as a parent. Which I think that's every generation, at every time. There's just a lot going on in the world right now that I think every generation thinks oh my gosh, you know,
Oh
look at
yeah,
the
for
world
sure.
now. But I do think there's a lot out there that is not necessarily good for us, that you have.
Well, and I think going back to you know, feeding the goats, like
Mm-mm.
I feel like I've told this story before, but my dad, it like very deeply concerned my father that we did not have an automatic water for our cattle, which like, yes, we have, don't worry, we have since gotten one because it gets way too hot here in the
Oh, he was
summertime.
so irritated
But
by
he
that.
was so mad that we did not have an automatic water. And like he'd be like, it's $13 at the feed store. Like, go get an automatic water. Which like, therefore made me not wanna get one because he wanted me to have one. But, like, that was the highlight. That sounds so stupid, but, like, the highlight of my evening would be, like, coming home and watering the cows and, like, just standing there, and they all come up to you because I like to think that they're excited to see me, but they could care less. They're just excited there's fresh water in there. But, I think people right now, and maybe this is like just an assumption, but I think people like across all spectrums of life are kind of searching for that a little bit. And maybe it's making sourdough at home or planting a garden. You know what I mean? So I think that there's an opportunity now, maybe more than ever, for agriculture to be sharing messages of like, listen, this is really what's happening. We're not trying to poison you. Like, or these are the things that we do to make sure that the product and on the
Right.
grocery shelves is like this, like, you know what I mean? So I think there's people
There's
searching for that information right now.
because then there's also the other extreme where you think everything is trying to kill you, everyone is trying to kill you, every food is poisoned, and so you have to you have to learn how to navigate all of that. But yes, I agree with you. Which is funny you mentioned that. So this past weekend before I left Idaho, your aunt has a garden, and so she had all this zucchini, and so Paige and Addie came over, and we were at Rochelle's, and she was like, I got to do something with all this zucchini. So she like researched all these recipes. And so we ended up that day, excuse me, we ended up doing zucchini bread and zucchini. And then zucchini bread, she made these little, like, they weren't fritters, but they were like these little, I don't know what they were, out of zucchini. And then I was meal prepping for your brother. And we were like all in the kitchen all day. And we had like so much fun. We were laughing. Like we had a good time. Everybody was kind of like helping. We took turns like doing the dishes, and I don't know, it was really fun, like wholesome day. But here we were, Rochelle has her little garden and she had all this zucchini. And so we were like figuring out what to do with all the zucchini so it didn't go to waste. And we all kind of did our thing in the kitchen. And at the end of the day, we were tired and we had been on our feet all day, but it was like a really good day. Like just like, as much fun doing that as, the day before when we had been out shopping or whatever. So I think getting back to some basic, tasks, I guess you could say, or just enjoying, like, kind of, I don't want to say wholesome, but just like not creating your own like experiences, I guess, memories or whatever. The more you can do that, I think, as a parent with your kids, the better off you'll all be in the long run too. Not to say that I was a perfect parent by any means, but I think we have always valued our time together as a family and not taken that for granted. So, anyway, that was a heavy.
Yeah, that was a lot.
Topic.
So that being said, would you like to partake in our new segment sponsored by Junk and Disorderly?
Me participating in it? What does that mean?
Okay, so it's gonna be the segment for the day is I'm gonna say a word or a phrase, and you respond with the first thing that comes to mind.
Oh, geez. Okay.
Okay. So first one. Oops, hang on, my little segment banner went away. First one is favorite movie.
Favorite movie. Oh wow, that's tough. Field of Dreams.
Okay. Biggest pet peeve.
Biggest pet peeve. I cannot stand to hear people chew, or not even chewing, but like the fork, the silver fork on their teeth.
Yeah. And if anyone wants to know, I have tin like utensils that my mother cannot stand.
The worst utensils ever. But yeah, chewing and like that fork on the teeth.
Okay. First job.
My first job?
Yes.
My first job was worked in a restaurant.
Was it the deli?
It was actually Discovery Bay Swim and Racket Club.
Oh, I did not know that.
You didn't? I was a waitress.
What the heck was this Swim and Racket Club?
It was the Discovery Bay had a swim and racket club. It was like tiny. And the lady that, oh God, I can't think of her name right now. I was in high school and she hired me and I would go there on the weekends. And yeah, I was a waitress. That was my very first job. I mean, actually babysitting probably was my very first job, but like my real first job, I was a waitress.
You were also a bus driver.
That was in my mind. Oh my God. And a Keno runner.
I forgot about that. Okay, 2 more. Let's see. Oh, secret talent?
Do I have a secret talent?
I don't know if I'd say you have. I mean, maybe, I don't know.
Well, I can't sing. We know that. Oh, wow. I don't know if I have a
I
secret.
think just a talent would be like jingles. You are always like coming up with jingle phrases or stuff.
Oh, there you go. I didn't even think of that, but
And I do that, and Ty's always like, "Why are you like randomly singing? Like, why do you randomly burst into song?" And I'm like, "Have you met my mother?"
I never really thought about that before. That is a secret talent. I can write a jingle on. That's funny. Huh.
And this is okay. Dream vacation.
Oh, well, I love me a good trip to Maui, but I mean, I don't know if that's a dream vacation. I really want to go to Europe. I want to go to
Go Greece.
go through Greece, Europe. Yeah, that would be. I'm trying to get that in the works, actually. Your father and I have our 35th wedding anniversary next year, and I think it'd be a perfect time to go to Europe.
Everybody? Did I send you that meme or it's not a meme, it was a reel, where it's like when you're on vacation with your parents and this guy in his robe and he's like, "I can't, I'm just a baby."
Yes. I think your brother showed it to me. Like, oh my God, that's hilarious. Yeah, that's funny.
All right, well, Mom.
I'm pretty sure 4 years ago, I didn't have this. Oh, turkey neck.
Okay.
I'm gonna do my neck exercises.
Thanks for coming back almost 3 years later.
Crazy. Well, thank you for having me. I do want to say I'm super proud of you and all the things that you have going on. I know Egg Chicks, sorry. Egg Chicks is one of the many balls you juggle along with your job and getting your PhD in December and keeping Egg Chicks going. And there's a lot. You also have a lot of things dangling from your umbrella. So I'm proud of you.
Thanks, Mom. She's not a paid actor.
Nope. I didn't get paid for that comment. Let me see. Let me think of a quick jingle.
Oh God, please. I need Ag Chicks jingle. All right. Well, that'll put a wrap in it for season 5, episode 2, I believe this is. So we will see everyone. Well, not really see, but hopefully you'll hear from us for episode 3. And don't forget to follow along on social media. If you are enjoying the show, please feel free to give us a like, review, rating. That really does help. And we will see you guys next time.
Have a good day.
Thanks so much for tuning into this episode of Ag Chicks. Don't forget to follow along on social media @AgChicks for more agricultural-related content, and also be sure to check out your favorite podcast gear from www.agchicks.net. We'll see you next time.